Bam. So the first consideration that we want to take into account when building the aquaponics system is the place that we're going to build it. We need to know all the spots that we should or the spots that we shouldn't use to build our aquaponics system. There's places that you're going to want to avoid primarily due to the amount of sun exposure that your plants are going to receive. So a place that you want to avoid is places that have a lot of tall structures, places that have you have parts of buildings that are going to be blocking the sun. If you have a lot of trees that are surrounding the area that you're going to place your aquaponics system, you're going to want to avoid these locations to the best of your ability because they're going to inhibit the amount of sun exposure that the plants are going to receive. And ideally, you want to have it in a place that is void of any type of obstructions. And that would be the best. That would be the best case scenario. But a lot of times you're not able to do that. So if you're not able to do that, here's some advice that you're going to have to take into account. We're going to want the plant to receive as much sun exposure that it can throughout the whole entire year. So we're going to have to take into account the sun angle inside of the sky during particular times of the year. We're going to have to take into consideration structures that are going to be in those paths during certain times of the year. So for instance, during the wintertime, well, let's start with the summertime. During the summertime, the sun typically has a high arcing angle in the sky. It typically has a high arcing angle. So it's really not too many obstructions that are in the way because it kind of arcs right over everything. And I'm referring to in the United States or in the Northern America. That's what I'm referring to. So there's not too many obstructions that we really have to worry about because the sun is going to have a tilt right over the plants, exactly where we need the sun to be. What happens though is as the summertime starts to go into fall and then later on into winter, that angle of the sun is going to start to lower. It's going to start to lower in the sky. And as it starts to lower, it's going to provide an environment for any other taller structures to be in the way of that arc, be in the way of plants absorbing the photons that they need to have. So for example, like in the School of Aquaponics here, when I built the hoop house, when I built the structure, there's on the southern end, and this is where that arc is going to take place in North America. On the southern side, the south side, that's where it's going to arc towards, facing the south. On that, on the southern end, there's large trees. There's very large trees on the opposite end of the street. And these very large trees are in the way as the winter approaches all the way up until the spring. These trees are in the way. They're blocking the path of, or they cast a large shadow on the north side, going towards the north. So anything that is north of those trees is going to have a shadow that's cast on them. So what happens is I had to take that into consideration once building the farm, once putting it together, because I knew during the wintertime, these trees are in the way and they're going to be blocking the sun. So what I did is take the calculations. I figured, okay, these trees are about 100 feet. They're 100 feet tall. What I need to do is build the structure at least the size of the structure and a half. So 1.5 times the size of the structure. And that's what gave me the calculation. So then I was able to build the hoop house, my hoop house structure, and place the plants out of the shadow of the trees when the wintertime comes. I was able to do that with no problem. And that's why it's important, because if I would not have done the calculation and if I would have built the structures closer during the wintertime, there's no sun for the plants. The sun is going to be greatly inhibited by those trees, and they're not going to be receiving. And it's already during the winter solstice. This is where the daylight hours are the shortest. So they're already receiving a short amount of daylight as it is, without any obstruction. It's already receiving a short amount of sunlight. So when you just add the obstruction in the way, then it just makes it even more difficult for the plant to grow, because the plant needs all the winter sun that it is able to obtain in order for it to develop.